January brought a couple of big shifts, with Pluto ingressing into Aquarius and Uranus finishing its retrograde. With all 10 planets moving direct, February is the month to act. We have an exalted Mars for the first few days, we have a beautiful and romantic Venus-Mars conjunction, as well as an interesting Mercury cazimi that involves Saturn. Let's take a closer look and break the most important transits for all 12 signs. My name is Anastasia. I'm a traditional Western astrologer specializing in natal, relationship, and predictive readings. If you like my work, please support me by leaving a like or a comment, subscribing, and pressing that notification bell. All of that helps me and my channel grow, encourages YouTube to show my content to more people. You can also say thank you by buying me a coffee. I really appreciate everyone who has taken advantage of that option. Before we dive in, if you'd like to work with me, if you have questions about the year to come, you want to know what's ahead for you, you want to book a reading to celebrate your birthday or any other important event in your life, you can book a reading with me at my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. Additionally, in January, I have captured the powerful exalted Mars in Capricorn in a trine with Jupiter. It has garnet stone to connect it with Mars, and it is beautiful in a sense that it connects the planet of action, very strategic, very strong Mars in Capricorn, with the planet of optimism and success, Jupiter, bringing confidence, helping you reach your goals with perseverance, and helping you grow and expand in life. You can find this on my website in the shop section of my website, and the candle is currently available for order. There are also oils. This is perfect for anyone born with their natal Mars in Cancer, Libra, or Taurus, which are the signs that Mars struggles in. If your natal Mars is in the 8th or 12th houses. Additionally, if you are a Capricorn rising, Aries rising, this is perfect for you because it's activating. I created the candle with Capricorn on the ascendant, so it fits you really well. For Aries rising, it's activating your 10th house. Additionally, also Leo rising. And you can benefit from it if you were born with Mars retrograde, or if you were born with Mars in a tough aspect to Saturn, like conjunction, square, opposition, because then your willpower might be a little bit more subdued, or it might be harder for you to take action. Thank you for listening. You know, I put a lot of energy and love into these candles, so I feel like sharing with you. I wouldn't be promoting it if I didn't believe in the work that I'm doing. So February, right? February is interesting because we kind of start to have planets gathering together. We have a bunch of planets in Capricorn at the start of the month, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. Then they all join the sun in Aquarius, and we start to have a bunch of planets in Aquarius, right? So planets move as groups, and as they move as groups, they're making similar aspects. So as Venus and Mars spend some time in Capricorn early in the month, they will aspect Uranus, they will aspect Neptune. As the planets enter Aquarius, they will aspect each other, right? Mars and Venus will conjoin, and they will be squaring Jupiter and Uranus at this time. So it's like there's a lot of kind of similar themes, and we basically only have like 4 major signs activated at this time. It's not like we have planets spread out all over the place. Maybe there's 5 signs. We have Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces later in the month, Taurus, and there's a full moon in Virgo. So 5 activated houses mainly, right? So let's take a look at the month. You may take notes if you so would like, but I will break down all of the month, and then I will take a look at the most important transits for all of the 12 signs. If you'd like to know what the month has in store for you, there's an option of becoming a subscriber on my website. This way, the horoscope will be tailored specifically to your chart. We'll include additional details, and we'll include a look at the transits that are personal and unique to you. Find that on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. Okay, so the first transit is on February 2nd, and that is Mercury sextile Neptune. It's active at the end of January, between January 31st and February 4th. Mercury sextile Neptune is very dreamy, very sort of sensitive, imaginative speech. It's very inspired. It's beautiful for making amends. We are going to have Mars sextile Neptune, so repeat this aspect on February 7th, and then we're going to have Venus sextile Neptune on February 13th, so leading into Valentine's Day. And these transits are similar, right? Except for early in the month on the 2nd, it's Mercury sextile Neptune, so your words are more sensitive. When we're moving on to February 7th, it's Mars sextile Neptune, so your actions become more altruistic and your sexual relationships might become more sort of ethereal, spiritual, soulful. And similarly with Venus on February 13th, when Venus sextiles Neptune, it's also like you're choosing relationships that are soulful. So that's what I mean when I said that these planets will be making the same aspects one by one, so you can like track the story. And these dates, 2nd, 7th, 13th, are really good for dating. They're really good for reaching out, sending a note, sending a love message to somebody you care about. On February 4th, Mercury enters Aquarius, stays here for 19 days until February 23rd. Mercury in Aquarius is very calculated, very rational, very analytical, intellectual, a little bit detached, right? So our speech can be, just watch out for being too focused on cold facts. Remember that there is also emotions involved. That's why early in the month you're so sensitive, and then later in the month when Mercury transitions into Aquarius, you become sort of more rational. What happens when planet starts to enter Aquarius? Now they're starting to conjoin Pluto. We have Pluto freshly ingressed into Aquarius, right? On January 20th. So now every planet that comes into Aquarius has to hang out with Pluto. And so immediately Mercury enters Aquarius on the 4th, conjoins Pluto. You may be understanding new things, right? Pluto has entered Aquarius last year. We had Pluto in Aquarius between late March and June 11th. And maybe it had introduced new themes, but it wasn't as activated at that time. In February, we have 3 conjunctions with Pluto. Let's not forget the moon also, right? So we have Mercury is first on the 4th. Then we have Mars on 13th, 14th, and then we have Venus on 16th, 17th. So here we're looking at what is Pluto about? What is Pluto trying to do in your chart? And check out the videos I did on Pluto. I did a lovely collaboration with Hannah from Hannah Elsewhere. We actually broke down Pluto for different Pluto generations. I don't think a lot of people look at that, but the time you were born in, your natal Pluto sign is also quite important for the upcoming Pluto and Aquarius transit. So check out my Pluto and Aquarius videos, but Pluto is doing something in your chart, right? Like it entered a new house, it's introducing new themes, it's perhaps introducing something scientific, something social, something futuristic in your life. And so as Mercury conjoins it on the 4th, as Mars conjoins it on the 13th, 14th, and as Venus conjoins it on 16th, 17th, you are exploring those themes. On the negative, you can encounter some power struggles. You know, Pluto is not just everything is peachy and now you're growing and you're the powerful unicorn. It's also about facing fears. It's about facing shadows. So these conjunctions, Mercury conjunct Pluto on the 4th, the 5th, will bring obsessive thinking, will bring some shadows, maybe some control issues where you're trying to control information. Mercury, like Pluto in Aquarius, can really be about information warfare. It's an air sign. It's a quite idealistic sign, so we may have to address battles of the minds and battles of ideas to come to a compromise. So the 4th, the 5th, very deep thinking, obsessive thinking could be really good for research, for therapy, for writing, for exposing structures. You may have a really deep conversation with someone at this point. And then I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, but then when Mars enters Aquarius on February 13th and conjoins Pluto between 13th, 14th, that energy may intensify. Mars stays in Aquarius until March 22nd. I think the conjunction with Pluto happens right away because Pluto is at the door of Aquarius, but that conversation that you had early in the month can now bloom and become bigger and bring some insights and increase your ambition, increase your desires, make you more focused and Mars is very sexual, Mars is very driven, so there might be romantic desires that you're exploring. Similarly, when Venus enters Aquarius on February 16th, Venus stays here until March 11th. She also conjoining Pluto, so here you're also dealing with like both shadows of control and power in relationships, but also maybe true vulnerability and closeness. So this will be very interesting. Definitely pay attention to how you're interacting with other people, to the themes that are coming up, and make sure that you're not too forceful in your approach and not too intimidating, because there is quite a danger of things getting out of control because your desires and your feelings are just so strong. And pay attention to those dates. I will repeat them again: 4th, 5th, 13th, 14th, 16th, 17th, as clues on what Pluto in Aquarius has in store for you. And if by any chance you're watching this video in the middle of February or later in February, please leave a comment telling me how these energies affected you and what kind of insights you may have had. February 7th, I mentioned briefly, we're going to have Mars sextile Neptune, Venus trines Uranus. Beautiful for innovation, experimentation, and your creative projects, in your relationships, and in your social media artistic pursuits, which I guess is also creative. There could be a new exciting romance that is not just focused on sex, but also very spiritual. Whenever Neptune is involved, we want our souls to kiss. We don't just care about sexual chemistry, you know. It has to be more. It has to be sublime. On February 8th, we have the Sun square Uranus. This is another aspect that's going to be repeated. So February 8th, the Sun squares Uranus. February 16th, Mercury squares Uranus. February... I thought Venus will square Uranus. Maybe next month. But yeah, so okay. So February 8th and February 16th, similar energy, right? The Sun and Mercury both square Uranus. February 8th and February 9th. So February 8th, 9th, we have the Sun squaring Uranus, and we have right away new moon in Aquarius in a square to Uranus. So Uranus is in Taurus. Uranus wants us to make changes to the foundational elements of our life, things that we might not want to change. There might be surprises connected to money, your job, your relationships, your living situation, your resources. Something that encourages you with the new moon on the 9th to come up with new ideas. I quite like that the moon is ruled by Saturn, still in a harmonious aspect with Jupiter. So we are both thinking rationally, but also exploring new ideas, growing, feeling optimistic. But something, as things change in your life, as you become more aware of the structures that are maybe outdated, there are opportunities to come up with new solutions that require fresh thinking, that require unconventional ideas, that require social awareness. An example would be someone you know loses their home, right? Uranus in a square to the Sun, and the new moon suggests that you bring this to community and you initiate like a food drive or a clothes drive, or you like reach out to all of your friends and you start creating a database of people maybe subletting their homes. So I think there is a sense of like new beginnings that come out of surprises, that come out of crisis, that come out of things feeling outdated and you being ready for a change. On the 10th of February, Mercury squares Jupiter. Watch out for being too cocky, being too boastful, taking on too much, promising too much, overexerting yourself, overpromising, overselling yourself. All of the over things come when there's a square to Jupiter. February 13th, 14th, I mentioned that already. Mars enters Aquarius for the next month and a half. Mars in Aquarius is very charming, once again, slightly detached, very attracted to the mind, less so to the physical look. Very interested in conversation, attracted to people who can keep the conversation, who are excited, stimulating, different, right? A lot of times could be more interested in talking about sex than doing it. Of course, there's exceptions everywhere based on the other placements in your chart, but it's like this, I think, rebellious, charming person who, when you bring them to the bedroom, they just keep talking about their revolutionary ideas. And you're like, okay, let's just get to business maybe. We also have on the 13th Venus sextiling Neptune. So there is that sensual, romantic, spiritual energy seeking true connection. On the 16th, Venus enters Aquarius, stays here until March 11th. Similar vibes to the Mars, right? We're attracted to people's brains. We're not attracted to their gender. We may notice being more open-minded, more experimental, more sort of cool and level-headed when it comes to love. We still crave commitment. It's still Saturn ruled. I'm a traditional astrologer. In traditional astrology, Aquarius is ruled by Saturn. So this is still a Saturn ruled Venus, but she wants commitment on her own terms, right? She's not necessarily interested in keeping things traditional. It's like, okay, we're committed to each other, but we sleep in different bedrooms or we live on different sides of the world. So you might become more open to that kind of stuff. Conjunction to Pluto between 16th and 17th could bring up some challenging energies, some power struggles potentially. So beware of that. We also have Mercury squaring Uranus, which can bring breakdowns, breakthroughs at this time. 16th, 17th potentially has a bit more challenging energy, I think, because of that Mercury square Uranus, secrets, surprises, shocking news coming out, both socially and personally, and that tension, drama, hunger, passion that Venus is feeling. Of course, you can perhaps grow through challenge and overcome difficulty, but you can also feel a bit overwhelmed by things that are happening around you. So try to stay grounded. Lucky for us, on the 18th of February, the Sun enters Pisces, reminding us that it's good to rest, it's good to dream, it's good to sleep, it's important to unwind, right? The Sun stays in Pisces for about a month until March 19th. We feel dreamy, we feel imaginative, we feel spiritual, we're quite perfectionist, right? The Sun in Pisces is quite like a perfectionist, can be really hard on themselves. Watch out for escaping and trying to avoid responsibilities for that magical nap. On the 22nd of February, Venus conjoins Mars. I love that transit, especially for all of my Libra, Taurus, Scorpio, Aries risings, because you have the 1st and the 7th ruled either by Venus or Mars. So the conjunction brings together the planet of love, the soft, glue, charming Venus, together with the passionate, warrior, active, young Mars, sexual Mars. So very passionate, very romantic, great for leadership, great for getting people to support you, very inspiring too, and just overall like a lovely time to present your ideas, to speak in front of people, to ask someone out. Very, very nice for that. On the 23rd of February, Mercury enters Pisces, stays here until March 9th. Mercury in Pisces is in detriment, and that shows through. It's a very soft and sensitive and spiritual and imaginative Mercury. It can be very soothing with words, very caring, but it's the sign opposite to Virgo, and it's the sign ruled by Jupiter, and so some of the facts can be slipping through. So you may notice that you're becoming more focused on like spirituality and less focused on returning phone calls or sending texts back. So there might be, like kind of an issue with focus or clarity or remembering the details. What's interesting is the day after that, on the 24th of February, we have a full moon at 5 degrees Virgo. We'll cover it, of course, in a separate video. It's especially important for you if you have planets between 2 and 8 degrees Virgo, Gemini, Sag, or Pisces. And here we're completing a cycle started on September 14th with the new moon in Virgo. This full moon, even though it's in Virgo, and normally Virgo wants us to be analytical, critical, realistic, complete a project, focus on your health, focus on your well-being, the full moon is ruled by Mercury in Pisces. So it is ruled by that Mercury in a dreamy, spiritual Pisces. And I feel like here you are almost like allowing yourself to be imperfect. You are feeling maybe more sensitive, more caring, more loving towards yourself, more accepting of yourself. You might still be finishing something in the sector of your chart that is Virgo, but sometimes maybe finishing requires just putting the final touches and accepting that this is perfect the way it is and you don't need to keep fretting over it. On the same day, on the 24th, we have Venus square Jupiter. Very good for partying, relaxing, not so good for working hard and paying attention to the details. So it's like, it's a bit of contradictory full moon in Virgo because we are not getting to be as Virgo because there is so much Pisces happening at the time. So try to still be aware of that easy tendency to overindulge, over promise, party, overspend, and then wake up with a tummy ache because the full moon in Virgo will bring consequences if you forget about things. Similar energy on the 27th of February. Now we have Mars squaring Jupiter. It's also like Mars is like, I am strong. Jupiter is like, yes, kick that door. Go over there, conquer that mountain. So just be careful that you're not taking unnecessary risks, I'm gonna say. Over-promising, getting into fights that aren't necessary, being too overzealous. Both are fixed signs, right? Can be too stubborn in some ways. On the 28th of February, we have Mercury Cazimi in Pisces at the same time as there is also a Saturn Cazimi. And this is quite big to have two Cazimis on the same day. Mercury Cazimi promises insights, realizations, important conversations, important news. Saturn adds like seriousness to it. It's saying that your thoughts are not just for the time being. It's not just you're getting some kind of good feeling. Saturn says that you have to put it in action. You have to put it in writing. You have to have a big conversation. So maybe you're making tough decisions at this time. Maybe you are making long-term choices. Maybe you're sacrificing something or committing to something and getting all the elements in order. And finally, February 29th, we have a very optimistic, positive, expansive, growth-oriented transit, and that is Mercury sextile Jupiter. So very good for making plans, for traveling, for connecting with other people. If you'd like to know what these transits in depth mean for you and what other transits are happening in your chart, just yours, become a subscriber on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. Go to plans, and you can get your monthly horoscopes delivered to you at the start of every month. So now let's take a look at all of the 12 signs and break down the February, some of the most important transits for all of our lovely signs. I recommend listening for your rising sign because that is the starting point of the chart. It determines where the rest of the transits fall in. But of course, you're welcome to listen for your sun or your moon and then compare and see which one works best. So if you are an Aries rising, in January you had Venus in your 9th house, so maybe you've been traveling, maybe you've been taking exams, writing, and dealing with some legal matters. There was a lot of focus on your professional house with the Sun, Mercury, Mars, and Venus in your 10th house. And you may have experienced some kind of fresh burst of energy in your social life later in the month when the Sun and Pluto entered Aquarius, your 11th house. Maybe you've come up with a different role for yourself. Maybe you sort of felt strong responsibility for your community and started thinking about new dreams and volunteering, becoming part of a nonprofit organization, anything like that, sort of how can I affect the collective? How can my efforts be beneficial for the world? In February, there's still focus on your career. We have early in the month, we have Mercury, Mars, and Venus in your 10th house. Venus leaves on the 16th, so you have like kind of strong potential until about the 16th of February. Especially good February 2nd, February 7th, February 13th. There is lovely connections between your house of career and your house of mental health on the 2nd and 7th and 13th. Maybe you're getting to relax. Maybe you're getting to understand that your work requires more spirituality. I can see even some kind of financial gains or financial investments happening on the 7th of the month as Venus trines Uranus in your second house. Also, like a really good time on the 7th specifically to ask for a raise, to ask for a new project that you want to do, or ask for some kind of recognition, or don't ask, just come up with a new project for yourself, right? Do not be afraid to experiment, because there is that trine to Uranus in the second house, and your changing values are getting a chance to be more visible. You're getting a chance to follow those new dreams. There's still a lot of focus on your house of community. The sun is here until the 18th of the month. Mercury enters on the 4th, Mars enters on the 13th, Venus enters on the 16th. So between like 16th and 18th, especially, you have like 5 planets in your 11th house. And this to me suggests a busier period socially. You are, like I said, Pluto has just entered. Maybe you are bringing back some of the projects or reconnecting with some of the people that you have first met or first became acquainted with in between March 23rd and June 11th, 2023, when Pluto first stepped into Aquarius. Maybe you're hearing more gossip, right? You may be sort of hearing more stories. People might be telling you things, especially between the 5th and the 23rd, because Mercury's here. Taking more action with your friends, maybe exercising with your friends or going to shows with your friends, being both active but also doing something enjoyable. I can see here, even the fact that Venus is here between 16th and March 11th is suggestive of, like, Venus rules your 7th house. It's suggestive of friends becoming lovers or meeting someone through a friend. And actually, before the 16th, you might be finding romance at work, if that is something you're open to. Of course, if you are already in a relationship, Venus in the first half of the month being in your house of career could be suggestive that you're just enjoying your work more. And then after 16th of February until March 11th could be suggestive that you are going out more. Maybe you're going on double dates, things like that. Between February 4th, 5th, 13th, 14th, 16th, 17th, there's going to be conjunctions with Pluto, which can both, I think, reveal any shadows in the groups that you belong to. Because, like I said, you're hearing a lot of different secrets. You might be finding something out, discovering something that is not working in the system, in your friendship, in your group project, and maybe getting opportunities to do things differently. You may be feeling more ambitious. You may be feeling a little bit more obsessive. You may be feeling a little bit more protective or controlling when it comes to your friendships. So beware of the more shadow sides of these transits, and focus on figuring out what truly brings you passion and either writing about it or speaking about it, discussing it, talking to your therapist, whatever it might be. There are exciting new beginnings here on February 9th as we get a new moon at 20 degrees, 40 minutes, Aquarius, and a square to Uranus and Taurus in the second house. So the square to Uranus in Taurus is interesting, right? Because you have some kind of tension between these new dreams that you have that involve the world at large, that involve the collective, and the resources you have available. The square to Uranus can suggest like a sudden spending. Suddenly you have to invest into something, or suddenly you get some money that lets you have more freedom and lets you explore these new ideas, new projects, new involvements with the community. Because it's a square, there's more chances of it to be kind of frustrating, kind of tough and difficult. So just practice flexibility as much as you can and try to be patient, right, with yourself and with other people. Also, I can see conflicts with you and your friends if they owe you money, for example. February 22nd is beautiful for starting new group projects, for dating a friend, for starting a partnership with a friend, as Venus, the ruler of your 7th house, comes together with Mars, the ruler of your 1st house, and also really good for joining forces with someone and investing money into something too, because those planets also rule your 2nd house of personal resources and your 8th house of other people's resources. From February 18th, there becomes more activations of your 12th house as the Sun enters Pisces. Mercury enters Pisces on the 23rd, and you are retreating a little bit. I think maybe your social battery is getting a bit drained and you're needing to recuperate some of your powers. So you're seeking rest. Maybe you're traveling. Maybe you're doing a spiritual retreat. Maybe you're turning your social media off, deleting an app from your phone, disconnecting in order to connect with yourself. There is also Mercury Cazimi and Saturn Cazimi in your 12th house on February 28th, which could be very suggestive of you both healing and getting rid of bad habits, but also becoming a healer and exploring interests and passions that are close to heart that maybe you haven't had a chance to explore that much earlier. And there's also a full moon in Virgo in your 6th house of health, well-being, work, service on February 24th, which brings attention to the way you take care of yourself. So obviously, like I said, there's a lot of focus on the top of your chart. There's a lot of focus on your career, on your goals, on your role in the collective. So the full moon reminds you that you also have a body. Don't forget to tend to your body. Don't forget to exercise. Don't forget to meditate, to have kind of clear structures. And the fact that the moon is ruled by Mercury Cazimi, or like Mercury in Pisces in the 12th house, to me also says that you cannot have mental health without physical health. Those two go hand in hand. And you can also see some kind of completion of a work project, of a health cycle. If you've been dealing with some kind of health issue, maybe also feeling more aligned with the diet you have started in September 2023 when we had a new moon in Virgo. And if you'd like to know what's ahead for you personally, you can become a subscriber on my website, Anastasia.astrology.com, to get your monthly horoscopes delivered to your email at the start of every month. They include a written description of the transits that are personal to you, as well as the transits that are more applicable to the collective. Now, if you are a Taurus rising, in January, there was a lot of focus on your house of money, paying off debts, handling taxes, figuring out how to share resources with other people, maybe negotiating, applying for scholarships. With Venus and Sagittarius, your 8th house, there could have been some focus on education, travel, your worldview, learning new things, as well as on your career, as Pluto ingressed into Aquarius on the 20th of January, as well as the Sun entering Aquarius. So Pluto ingressing in Aquarius will, of course, color February, as well as you are starting to feel more passionate, more focused, more interested in doing work that changes the world, more ambitious and interested in doing work that brings you power. Most likely power behind the scenes, because Pluto is not, it doesn't, it's the god of the underworld. He has the power, quite strong power. He can bring you to the underworld, but he's not necessarily very showy. So you might be gearing up for professional changes or changes of status, but more so behind the scenes. So in February, there's still quite, for a while until mid-month, there's still focus on your 9th house, with Mercury, Mars, and Venus starting the month in Capricorn. So you are maybe rethinking your role in the world, figuring out new things to study, figuring out new things to write about, figuring out your beliefs, and like I said, once again, your guiding principles, like what is important to you, what is motivating you, what are your core philosophies and beliefs. I like February 2nd and 7th and 13th. There's going to be some beautiful connections between Mercury, Venus, and Mars, and Neptune in your 11th house. So I think you are connecting education, travel to your dreams and to your role in the community, becoming a teacher, becoming a guide, becoming an influencer of some sort, or even just finding people who are more aligned, right? With Neptune in the 11th, finding friends, finding connections. On the 7th, we also have Venus trining Uranus in your first house, and Uranus has been in your first house for a while, encouraging a personal revolution. So Venus trining Uranus on the 7th of February can make that personal revolution easier. And I think connect your identity, your health and well-being with your life philosophy, perhaps letting you express your ideas, but also encouraging you to take better care of your health, of your well-being, and encouraging you to encompass some kind of new belief or a new role, a new set of studies into your personality. Like I said, Pluto is in Aquarius. Pluto is not alone there at the start of the month. Right away, there's also the Sun. Later on, Mercury, Mars, and Venus, one by one, join Pluto, highlighting your professional house. And you are hustling. You are making money, coming up with new ideas, reaching out to people, experimenting, exploring, kind of asking what your professional aspirations are. There will be a bit of a challenging, potentially, aspects on February 5th, 4th, 5th, 13th, 14th, 16th, 17th, as Mercury, Mars, and Venus, one by one, conjoin Pluto. And those transits are important because they are, on one hand, showing you what Pluto and Aquarius is about. So pay attention. Pay attention to the conversations you're having. The first transit between the 4th and the 5th is all about conversations. It's all about new ideas. It's all about your thinking, your knowledge, your expertise. 13th, 14th, Mars conjoins Pluto, and just be careful that your hunger for power doesn't get the best of you, doesn't sort of take you too far. And then 16th, 17th, now it's your Venus, your ruler, that is conjoining. I just realized that I cut my finger. Sorry. It like started to feel weird, and how did that happen? Who knows? There's danger everywhere. But Venus, your ruler, conjoins Pluto between 16th, 17th, and this could reveal, on one hand, your own rigidity, your own fears, your own, you want to be in power, but you're also kind of scared of how your life will change, or you want something, you really hunger for something, but you are also nervous and worried about. And so the shadow side of this could be being too controlling, trying to dominate other people, trying to hide some information, both romantically but also professionally. But on the positive, there is an invitation there to explore your desires, to explore your ambitions, and maybe understand what the shadows are and what needs to be released and how can you get closer to where you're trying to go. Between 8th, 9th, the Sun will be squaring Uranus. There's also going to be a new moon in your house of career and a square to Uranus in Taurus, your first house. So new beginnings in your professional life that come out of surprises, breakdowns, and breakthroughs in your personal life, in your health, in your image and body. So the very literal example is you get pregnant if you are a lady, or if you're born a lady and you can get pregnant. But let's say you get pregnant, right? Or you get some kind of offer, and that takes you out of the workforce for a little bit, or you have to figure out how you can still achieve your goals while taking care of the personal thing. Or you go to study yoga, for example, and you cannot do your work the way you used to do. So there will be a bit of an invitation to stay flexible and adjust. A very beautiful transit in the house of work is on February 22nd. Venus conjoins Mars, the ruler of your 1st and your 7th house meeting up, the ruler of your 12th and 6th house meeting up. So this could be a partnership with your significant other, starting a business with them. This could be an opportunity to convert a work relationship into a romantic relationship. This could also be some kind of new project, a passion project, and something exciting that's happening in your professional life. It can also be like a very steamy day or two. Your 11th house gets activated. Your life becomes more social from about February 18th when the sun enters Pisces. You are exploring new friendships. You're connecting with other people. Maybe you haven't seen friends for a while and now you are making time for them. You may become more socially aware, more interested in volunteering and speaking for the group of people that is really important to you, especially later in the month, because on February 28th, we have Mercury Cazimi, important realization, at the same time as there is a Sun-Saturn conjunction, so Saturn Cazimi, which makes you realize, kind of think deeper about what effects your actions and your words have in the world, and make you either more interested in making some kind of adjustments professionally or taking action in terms of helping your community, right? For example, you realize that there is not enough like food pantries in your community and you start to connect with your neighbors to change that situation. On February 24th, we have the full moon in Virgo, your fifth house, completing a cycle that started in September 2023 with a new moon in Virgo. And here you're looking at your house of romance, creativity, and children, and you're experiencing a breakthrough there. What's interesting is like, there is so much focus on your 11th house, right? All these like 11th and 10th house, all these dreams and explorations and your public life and kind of outside world. But the full moon says that you really need to look at your love life, you need to look at your children, at your maybe pregnancy, right? I know at least one Taurus rising for whom this would apply. But yeah, you're sort of invited to have a little bit of time to yourself, to remind yourself what you enjoy doing, to connect with yourself, to connect with your inner child, to maybe even open some space for those new beginnings, right? Clear space in your child's room. Maybe your child just moved out and you're opening space for an office, or finish a project so that you can have time to do something else. So sort of requires you to think about little things and immediate things before you think about the big projects. And if you'd like to know what the month ahead, what February and other month have in store for you, become a subscriber with me on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. This way you will receive written horoscopes at the start of every month that describe what's happening in your chart and how these transits and other ones affect you. If you are a Gemini rising, in January, you were focusing on contracts, agreements, maybe you were dating. There was also a lot of focus on your finances with the Sun, Mercury, Mars, and Venus in your 8th house. Perhaps you took care of your taxes or started organizing your paperwork. Maybe you were dealing with some kind of loans, scholarships, applying for something. And you could have felt focus starting to shift as Pluto entered Aquarius and the Sun entered Aquarius on January 20th to your 9th house, and your knowledge, your role as an educator, your writing, and maybe even some legal matters, some kind of immigration matters that you had to attend to. In February, there's still quite a strong focus, at least until the middle of the month, on your house of shared resources, debts, taxes, inheritance, as you are paying off debts, you are, like I said, like kind of getting ready to pay taxes. Maybe you are renegotiating some agreements, getting a pay raise, kind of handling some important financial matters. A few really nice dates here is February 2nd, 7th, and 13th. Mercury, Venus, and Mars make aspects to Neptune in the 10th, and you can be receiving financial bonuses at this time. There is like a lovely energy between your house of debts and taxes and your house of career, so some kind of financial reward can be coming your way, as well as also like an overall sense of recognition and appreciation can be happening at this time. Like I said, Pluto has entered your 9th house, and there is now maybe you are looking back at the ideas you started exploring in, I keep thinking there's hair, there's like hair rubbing, touching my arm. Never mind. So maybe last year when Pluto first stepped into Aquarius between March 23rd and June 11th, you started exploring being an educator, being a writer, being a lawyer, or some kind of new world philosophy, being a teacher. So now that Pluto is back in your ninth house, the focus on both, I think, like finding the right belief system, finding the right spiritual place for yourself, as well as expressing yourself through education, through writing, through travel, through publishing, is very, very strong. Mercury enters your ninth house, so does Mars, so does Venus. They will be conjoining Pluto on the 4th, 5th, 13th, 14th, 16th, 17th. And pay attention to those dates a lot, because they will introduce to you the themes that Pluto will take the next 20 years to unravel in your life. A lot of what's likely is maybe you're having some kind of debates with people. You may be getting in a heated conversation about astrology with someone, let's say, and they're disagreeing, and you're like really defending it passionately early in the month between the 4th and the 5th. And then Mars comes in on the 13th, and between 13th, 14th, you are starting to realize that you want to dig deep and you want to understand astrology, right? And then Venus conjoins Pluto, and you really like decide to start studying it. And that's, of course, very obvious way this could manifest, but really, I think new ideas, a different role for yourself, a different philosophical system, kind of finding something new that reflects who you are better is likely. There might also be shadows getting revealed to you with authority figures, with teachers, with people who determine what rules we follow, so that you realize where things are broken and you realize where you need to step up, perhaps. We get a new moon on February 9th in a square to Uranus and Taurus in your 12th house, and you are exploring and starting new things in the sector of education, in the sector of writing, travel, publishing, legal matters, in response to some kind of roadblocks and surprises outside of your control. So, like an example of this could be like Uranus and Taurus in a square to the new moon. You find out that your lawyer made a mistake, something that you don't control, right? Like you trusted them, you gave them the right information, you discover that something happened. And then the new moon in the ninth house encourages you to find a new lawyer. Or you discover some kind of issue that maybe happened with like something your boss did or something somebody else did, and then you decide to go and get more education so that you can become more proficient in your field of work, maybe. So yeah, like those days can be, I think, like, the new moon is very significant, but also pay attention to like February 4th, 5th, 13th, 14th, 16th, 17th, like I said, because those can be very, very crucial in terms of you understanding what this is all about. February 22nd, I really like, and that is Venus and Mars conjunction, and it's happening in your ninth house. So I think you are connecting with like-minded people. You're connecting with teachers, you are presenting new ideas. This could be a beautiful sort of time to present a book idea, to present maybe some kind of content on social media potentially, even though ninth house is not social media, but it still has to do with what you're sharing with the world. Dating a classmate, dating a teacher could also be a possibility, or going on a trip and having a romantic, steamy encounter with some kind of foreign, hot piece of human, the beautiful human, but also sexy. From the middle of the month, planets start one by one shifting into your 10th house of career. First the Sun on the 18th of February, and then Mercury on the 23rd of February. So that suggests that you are going from envisioning new future, rethinking your beliefs, sort of coming up with new ideas, presenting your writing projects, dealing with legal matters. You're going to a more professional attitude. Now you're asking, how can I make these dreams happen? How can I make this vision happen? On February 28th, we actually have Mercury cazimi and Saturn cazimi at the same time. And that is suggesting that you're focusing on taking your ideas and your vision and solidifying them. And of course, Saturn cazimi could suggest that you need to say no to something, that you need to be more realistic, more grounded, that you need to lay out long-term plans. And as you do so, chances are you may need to sacrifice something or say no to something. It doesn't have to be a bad thing, but of course, like, to reach your goals, you have to put the work in, right? As you're so focused on your work, on February 24th, we get a full moon in Virgo, your 4th house, bringing attention to your home and family, which says that before you get to that place of professional success and accomplishment, is everything good in your home? Do you need to declutter? Do you need to move? Do you need to rethink something, right? Like, there is an opposition to Saturn, there's an opposition to Mercury, and you are encouraged to get real about your future, right? Like, your home life and your place where you live is very much connected to your career. So here you're balancing your vision of yourself and your comfort and security and what needs to happen in the home, what needs to happen in the family, and how will that reflect your career, right? Or how those two are connected. So maybe it's about finishing renovating, or it's about starting to get ready to move or moving. And then, of course, as you're looking at your career, if you're moving, your professional life is changing as well. And you might be here completing some kind of home, family, living situation chapter that started in mid-September when we had a new moon in Virgo. And if you'd like to know what February has in store for you specifically, what kind of personal transits get activated in your chart, become a subscriber on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. You can receive monthly horoscopes at the start of every month that are uniquely tailored to your chart and can help you maximize the month to come. Now moving on to Cancer rising. In January, you were focusing on work and health with Venus in your 6th house. Maybe you were dating someone you were working with. At the same time, the Sun, Mercury, Mars, and Venus also traveled through your 7th house, suggesting more focus on partnerships, relationships, sort of one-on-one dynamics. Maybe you were signing more contracts, maybe you were negotiating. And then later in the month, after January 20th, when we had the Sun and Pluto ingress into Aquarius, the focus went to your agreements and to the questions of fairness, to your financial relationships with other people, as we had those really big shifts. And you're potentially asked yourself, how can you free yourself from debts? How can you have healthy relationships? How can you get rid of some kind of, outdated karmic storylines that you've been carrying with you for a while? In February, there's still, for the first 15 days of the month, there's still focus on your 7th house as Mercury, Mars, and Venus travel through Capricorn. Mercury leaves on the 4th, Mars leaves on the 13th, Venus leaves on the 16th. But first 2 weeks of the month, you still have opportunities to date if that's something you're interested in. If you are in a relationship, maybe you're experiencing better kind of dynamic with your partner. There might also be new contracts, new agreements that are coming your way, especially around February 2nd, 7th, and 13th, as Mercury, Mars, and Venus sextile Neptune in the 9th, connecting your house of relationships and partnerships with the house of education, travel, writing, and legal matters. So I can see this as finding maybe a mentor to help you reach your goals, finding a travel person, travel guide who can also help you understand things, finding a lawyer if that's something you need. This would be a great time for that. There's also on the 7th, Venus also trines Uranus in your 11th house, and this could be the time when friends are offering some opportunities, some advice and guidance that you really need at this time. Your 8th house is busy. Like I said, Pluto ingressed here on the 20th of January. So did the Sun. Mercury follows on the 4th. Mars follows on the 13th. And Venus follows on the 16th. What's interesting here is that these planets immediately conjoin Pluto. And whatever Pluto is about for you, which I already mentioned what it's about, right? That freedom, financial abundance, more stability, more kind of less debts and more fairness, you will see this. You will really get a chance to experience this quite a lot around February 4th, 5th, 13th, 14th, 16th, and 17th. when Mercury, Mars, and Venus all conjoin Pluto. This could be the time when you are dealing with some kind of shadows, when you discover that you have a debt, or when you discover that your plans are somehow stalled because of the lack of resources. This could be the time when there are power struggles in relationships where your partner or your bank or your friend your friend that you owe money to kind of wields control over you, or tries to manipulate you, or tries to like threaten you and just sort of leverage their power against you. So this could be, those dates can be like very critical in terms of conversations, realizations, relationships that then encourage you to make positive changes as Pluto travels through Aquarius for the next 20 years. There's a new moon in your 8th house on February 9th in a square to Uranus and Taurus in the 11th house, and you're very much having to rethink your financial strategy. You're having to rethink your agreements with other people in response to the breakdowns and breakthroughs connected to your dreams, right? Uranus in the 11th brings attention to you wanting freedom, you wanting to explore new opportunities, you sort of wanting to go for more, establish yourself. But the new moon in the 8th in a square to Uranus can suggest like, well, but do you have the money to do it? Do you have the strategy to do it? Maybe you need to think about it. Maybe you need to sit down, right? And sort of be flexible, be adaptable. So the new moon on February 9th is very much about having to implement a different strategy when it comes to your money and resources, maybe paying off debts, setting some money aside, getting more serious about resources. I love February 22nd. We have Venus-Mars conjunction in the 8th, which maybe helps you figure out how to spend money better, how to pay off debts. There could be opportunities to partner up with other people, maybe start some kind of creative collaboration, maybe, like I said, resources coming in. Venus rules your 4th house of home and family, rules your 11th house of friendships. Mars rules your house of career. It rules your 5th house of children and creative projects. So those can come together, right? Like friends can offer some advice, family can be on your side. So there is like a lot of kind of opportunities for peace and agreement between these like, you know, yin and yang, a bit contradictory energy. From February 18th, later in the month, your 9th house begins to get activated as the Sun enters Pisces, and then Mercury enters Pisces, and then we have Mercury cazimi and Saturn cazimi here on February 28th. And this suggests that you are traveling, you are studying, you are learning. Maybe you're learning about different philosophies. Maybe you are exploring, you know, different mentorship programs, different sort of interests, sitting, taking classes, browsing some universities, some sort of educational programs. February 28th, that Mercury cazimi at the same time as Saturn cazimi is happening, to me suggesting that you really need to be like serious, think long term, focus on making sacrifices, figure out what needs to be done, right? Like not just dream about things, because like Mercury in Pisces at this time can be very dreamy, but Saturn says like, okay, how are you going to make it happen? What do you need to do? Who do you need to write? Create a plan, think about it seriously. On February 24th, there's a full moon in Virgo, your 3rd house. It opposes Saturn and opposes Mercury. Here you're completing a cycle that started in September 2023 with a new moon in Virgo, and you're looking at your everyday life. And you're literally looking at what needs to be decluttered, what needs to be changed, what exams do you need to take, what else do you need to learn before you can take on the world, before you can move, before you can become an educator, before you can become a writer, right? Before you can become a lawyer, whatever it might be. The full moon in the 3rd house says that you need to clear your schedule, you need to communicate about your needs, you need to get the right technology, you need to declutter and get organized. So this full moon will really sort of bring you back to earth and encourage you to be realistic about what needs to be done in your life. And if you'd like to know what February has in store for you, become a subscriber on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. And you can receive monthly horoscopes emailed to you at the start of every month, breaking down what's happening collectively, what's happening for you specifically, and helping you navigate the month with ease. If you are a Leo rising, in January, Venus traveled through your 5th house, and maybe you were dating, maybe you were exploring fun activities, having more outings, having more pleasurable times, right, with your significant other or even with your friends. There could have been focus on work and health and your pets or your everyday life with planets in Capricorn. And the Sun and Pluto entered Aquarius, highlighting your 7th house of relationships, making you really ask yourself some important questions about what you seek, what kind of relationships you want to build, and also like intensify your desire for a partnership, if that is something that you want, or a business relationship, if that is something that you want. In February, there's still a lot of focus on your 6th house of health, well-being, diet, exercise, as Mercury, Mars, and Venus stay in Capricorn until about the middle of the month. Mars is here until the 13th. Mars is in its joy in the 6th house, helping you get more strategic, exercise, eat better, handle your tasks better. You're sort of, you're like a power machine at this time. And please let me know if you're already feeling this, because Mars is in Capricorn, has been in Capricorn since the start of January. Have you noticed being more productive? I like February 2nd, 7th, and 13th. There's quite a good energy flow between Mercury, Mars, and Venus and Neptune in your 8th house. I can see you being rewarded for the hard work you've done. I can definitely see like a financial reward or some other form of recognition, maybe a gift from one of your clients or one of the students you work with, if you work at a university, for example. On the 7th, Venus also trines Uranus in the 10th, and I can see this is like really nice, I think, for the hard labor of love to be noticed, for the mundane work to be appreciated, and to turn something hard that you've been working on into an opportunity to advance your career. Even connecting with someone who can help you advance your career is likely early in the month on the 7th. Like I said, Pluto at this point is in your 7th house together with the Sun. Venus and Mars join later. There's a new moon here, so there's a lot of focus on your relationship house. If you're single, you may notice that you are now becoming more interested in dating. If you are in a relationship, there might be more focus on what the future holds for us, right? Like you are starting to feel like you no longer just want to be dating. You want marriage. You want some kind of commitment. Pay attention, especially to February 4th, 5th, 13th, 14th, 16th, 17th, because those are the dates Mercury, Mars, and Venus ingress into your 7th house and immediately conjoin Pluto. And every time Pluto gets hit, conjunction is a very strong aspect, you get a glimpse of what is Pluto in Aquarius for the next 20 years about for you. And you get 4 of those glimpses, right? So it's a very special time. On the 4th, 5th, when Mercury goes in, you may notice some kind of important conversations. 13th, 14th, 16th, 17th, there might be shadows revealed in your relationships. There might be fears revealed that you have, like this is a great example if you're like dating someone who's unavailable and Pluto enters and Venus and Mars conjoin Pluto and there is like a blowout or a power struggle, some kind of conflict, and you become aware that this is not what you want, right? Or you become aware that your fears are reflected in this relationship, that your fears of commitment are reflected by your partner. So multiple opportunities for like deep realizations. The new moon on the 9th in your 7th house squares Uranus in your 10th house, suggesting new beginnings in relationships, new beginnings in business partnerships and agreements that come from breakthroughs, breakdowns, surprises in your professional life. Maybe you get a job offer. Maybe you get a scholarship to go study in Switzerland, right? And you are needing to adapt and your relationship is needing to adapt. Maybe you are realizing that you want children, and because that's not a career change, but that's like an important life choice, right? So then your career, your relationship needs to adjust. So very much, your 10th house is activated with Jupiter and Uranus here, and your 7th house is activated, and you're trying to find a good balance between your professional pursuits and your personal pursuits. I love February 22nd. Venus conjoins Mars in your 7th house of romantic relationships and business partnerships. If you're single, go on a date. If you're in a relationship, go on a date. If you're not into dating, reach out to people, connect with clients, explore business agreements, explore contracts, send an email to somebody who can be crucial and helpful for you. All of this would be lovely. From February 18th, your 8th house begins getting more active with the sun entering Pisces, and Mercury enters Pisces on the 23rd of the month, and you are becoming more financially savvy. You're like, okay, I need to gather documents to pay taxes. I need to get serious about paying my debts. I need to save for a big purchase, right? Maybe even contacting people who can be important to you, maybe reaching out about partnerships, about creative partnerships, about writing something together. On the 28th of the month, there's going to be a Mercury cazimi together with Saturn cazimi. And this is suggestive of both serious financial thinking, looking at your debts, looking at your taxes, maybe making some tough decisions, maybe making some sacrifices. This could also be important in terms of any relationships, like choosing to let go of your partner's financial support, or choosing to let their support be part of your life, choosing to, maybe you're negotiating some kind of separation or some kind of child care, child support, any important conversations that both involve money but also involve questions of fairness, agreements, whether spoken or unspoken in relationships, can be coming up at this time. This could be talking to your partner about throwing out trash or washing the dishes, whatever it might be, something seemingly mundane but also quite important to the peace of your relationship. On February 24th, we have a full moon in Virgo in your 2nd house, which brings attention to your money and your resources. So Saturn is slowly changing your relationship to your partner's finances, changing your partner's finances, their money. Maybe you're paying off debts, you're handling maybe applying for scholarships, maybe getting loans. But the full moon says that you need to look at your part in the story. You need to, once again, pay off some debts. You need to figure out what's important to you, right? As you are negotiating these new agreements, what is it that you desire? What is it that you want? What is it that's non-negotiable for you? Because the full moon opposes Saturn in the 8th house, you're really sort of needing to get serious about these values, both values and money in relationships, and have some of the important conversations and not shy away from expressing both tangible and intangible values that you have in relationships. And if you'd like to know what February has in store for you personally, become a subscriber on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com, to get written horoscopes sent to you at the start of every month. I look at your chart, I describe what kind of transits are activating your chart and help guide you through the month so that you can take most advantage. Moving on to Virgo risings. In January, you were family oriented, maybe spent more time redecorating, connecting with family, while Venus traveled through Sagittarius. There could have been more opportunities to date with planets in Capricorn, or do fun, pleasurable activities, spend more time with children, whether your own or your nieces, nephews, or your friends' kids as well. And later in the month, from about 20th of January, as the Sun and Pluto entered Aquarius, you could have experienced breakthroughs around work, around health, around service, around pets. Perhaps you started to feel more driven to find out everything there is about your health, or change your routines, let go of a job, sort of find more independence. In February, early in the month, approximately the first 15 days, there's still a lot of focus on your 5th house. as you are discovering joy. You know, there's been a lot going on in your 5th house for a while. Pluto was there. There was also Mercury retrograde in your 5th house. So maybe you've gone through a bit of a shift when it comes to what you enjoy doing. So I think early February lets you take advantage of that. Maybe there's more dates. Maybe there's more fun activities. Like I said, maybe there's more time spent with kids. Maybe you're rediscovering what your inner child likes to do and you're sort of feeling playful, you know, doing more puzzles with your significant other, going to trivia, going to bars, going to concerts, etc. I especially like February 2nd, 7th, and 13th as Mercury, Mars, and Venus all sextile Neptune in your 7th. Great for making amends, for having spiritual, sensual, passionate dates with your significant other. On the 7th, Venus also trines Uranus in the 9th, bringing in the element of like education, travel, writing, publishing. So, you know, maybe you're traveling with your significant other, maybe you are learning something that you really enjoy that is pleasurable to you. Maybe you're writing about something or connecting with people who are mentors. This, of course, is romantic. It reads very romantic, but it can also potentially have to do with your creative self-expression and things that you enjoy doing. Like I said, it doesn't only have to be romantic. Pluto has entered your 6th house and it is traveling through your 6th house, still in the very beginnings, and then slowly on the 4th, on the 13th, 16th, it gets joined by Mercury, Mars, and then Venus. Pay attention to the 4th, 5th, 13th, 14th, 16th, 17th. Those are the dates new planets enter Aquarius and conjoin Pluto. And this is really important because they will conjoin Pluto and give you insights on what the next 20 years will be about, right? Pluto is fresh in Aquarius. It may, of course, be bringing back themes from last year, from March 23rd until June 11th, when Pluto first ingressed into Aquarius. But it's highlighting your focus on health. It's highlighting your role as a healer. It's focusing you on your diet, on your wellness, on your well-being, encouraging you to make some kind of changes in this part of your life, maybe to work independently. The conjunction to Pluto can like definitely bring strong focus and conversations and events that are directing you, but it can also bring up some shadows. Maybe you realize that your colleagues are not all pure, right? That they're being manipulative, they're being controlling, or you're realizing that your bosses are doing that and you're sort of starting to see what you want to do or how you want to change your life. So those dates can be quite important. There is a new moon on February 9th in a square to Uranus and Taurus in your 9th house, which suggests new beginnings in your work, in your health, in your diet, that are somehow connected to Uranus in the 9th. So Uranus in the 9th could want freedom to teach, freedom to write, freedom to explore and learn new things, freedom to travel. So your work is transforming in response to those new desires. And there is a chance that there could be, tensions and things are not necessarily super easy and smooth immediately, but I think you are exploring and venturing in new territories and having fun doing it. I love February 22nd. There's a Venus-Mars conjunction in your 6th house, bringing maybe financial rewards, maybe romantic connection with somebody you are working with, maybe new projects, new exciting opportunities, kind of connecting your, charming personality with your active personality. From February 18th, planets one by one start to shift into your 7th house, highlighting now your house of commitment and your house of serious relationships, contracts, and business partnerships. So as you got to explore your romantic and your sort of fun side, now you're getting to ask whether these relationships and these projects and these connections are meant to stay. So February 28th is going to be quite significant because there's Mercury cazimi and there's also Saturn cazimi in the 7th house. And I think you're experiencing realizations, you're experiencing more clarity about your relationships, about the things that you want to keep and things that need to go romantically, or even like in terms of any kind of agreements and partnerships, right? There may be some important conversations you're having with your partner. There may be changes that your partner is going through that is affecting your life. What's interesting is right around the same time, on February 24th, we have a full moon in Virgo in your first house, which brings completion to a personal chapter that started in September 2023 when we had a new moon in Virgo. And here you're encouraged to take a look at yourself, at your goals, and sort of, get more clear about what you want, get more clear about how you take care of yourself and what your values are, as you are building these agreements and contracts and getting involved with other people. Because Saturn opposes this full moon, and Saturn is in the 7th house, and it's like saying, do you want a relationship? Okay, but what do you need to do about yourself? Do you need to move to a better neighborhood so you have more opportunities to invite someone? Do you need to take care of your health so that you physically have more energy and feel more confident with yourself so that you can date? So kind of big, important questions about yourself in relationship to both business partnerships and romantic agreements will be highlighted with this full moon on February 24th. And if you'd like to know what the month ahead has in store for you, become a subscriber on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com, to receive monthly horoscopes sent to you at the start of every month. I break down the month, I cover all of the important transits, I look at your personal transit, so it's very detailed, it's very specific to you, and it helps you navigate the month to come. Now let's talk about the beautiful Libra risings. In January, there was a lot of focus on your mind. As Venus transited your 3rd house, there was a lot of focus on home and family with planets in your 4th house with Capricorn season, as well as there could have been some breakthroughs, some new creative ideas, some new passions and intensity in your 5th house as the Sun and Pluto ingressed into Aquarius. Maybe you started to seek true pleasure, true fulfillment, true realization, right? Creative and parental and romantic intensity. In February until mid-month, we still have Capricorn activation. Mercury, Mars, and Venus one by one stay here and then leave for Aquarius. But early in the month, you're still finishing up some kind of home projects. Maybe you're updating your furniture. Maybe you're updating your living situation. Maybe you're moving. Maybe you're spending time with family, sort of connecting with them, like having a good time. On February 2nd, 7th, and 13th, planets in the 4th house are making aspects to your 6th house. So this could be a good time to do or finish any DIY projects, to do some kind of, work in your home, improve anything that needs to be improving, to maybe even be active with your family and connect with them and do something fun. On the 7th, Venus also trines Uranus in the 8th, so there is some kind of like nice energy between the sector of comfort, security, home, your living situation, and debts, taxes, inheritance, loans, mortgage. So either you're paying it off or you're getting some kind of bonus that maybe you can reinvest in your home and your living situation. Even getting some kind of support from your family members is quite likely here. The focus on your 5th house continues pretty much the entire month, right? Pluto is now here. Pluto has gone into your 5th house between March 23rd and June 11th in 2023. And here we are repeating the same themes, right? Look back at March 23rd, June 11th. Have you started asking yourself questions about parenthood? Have you started thinking about pleasure and what true fulfillment is like? Have you rediscovered your inner child? Have you started dating? So Pluto here is like really, really big, I think, for exploring pleasure, exploring the shadow side of pleasure, right? For some of us, Libra risings, we may have to address shadows connected to pleasure, bad habits, escapist tendencies, drug addiction, anything like that, social media addiction, right? Hello, I am a social media addict. I mean, it's my business, but sometimes I feel like I'm crossing the line a little bit. So shadows around that, especially pay attention to the 4th, 5th, 13th, 14th, 16th, and 17th of the month, because that's when Mercury, Mars, and Venus will conjoin Pluto. Bringing your attention to what Pluto in Aquarius will be about for the next 20 years. So pull out your notebooks and start journaling, start noticing. Because, you know, like I said, like there's always a bit of a shadow with Pluto. There's always a bit of a rigidity, especially when it's in the fixed sign. You may realize that you are too fearful, that you're too controlling, that you allow your traumas dictate your relationships maybe. And so these like dates that I mentioned could reveal those things. They could reveal where are you sabotaging your relationships, where are you being too controlling, where are you being too controlling with children, where are you being too afraid, right? So pay attention and look for opportunities to transform relationships. If you realize that your partner is being too controlling, maybe it's the time to have an important conversation, make some big decisions, right? There's also a new moon here on February 9th. In a square Uranus in the 8th house, suggesting new beginnings in love, pleasure, passion projects, parenthood in response to breakthroughs and changes related to your partner's resources, like your partner gets a raise and now you have freedom to do things that you want to do. There's less concern about making ends meet. Or your partner loses their job, right? And now you need to figure out how to still do things you want to do, but now you don't have as much flexibility. Or maybe you decide to become a parent now that your partner has more financial stability. Or you decide not to have a parent, right? Regardless of what's happening with your partner's finances. So some kind of important romantic, parental, creative shifts that are happening in response to the changing resources, to the changes in partner's resources, to the changes in values of your partnership and your partner. I love, love, love February 22nd. So romantic. Just a sec. Venus conjoins Mars. Venus rules you. Mars rules your relationship. Venus rules the house of partners' money. Mars rules the house of your money. Very beautiful for creative partnership. Very beautiful for romantic partnership. Very fertile. If you're someone who's trying to get pregnant, this is the time, because it's your 5th house. It's the place of sex, the place of pleasure, the place of baby making. So becoming a parent is highly likely at this time. From the middle of the month, from the 18th of the month, there is also your house of work, your house of health, your house of dieting. Exercise becomes more active. You're maybe working out, maybe you're figuring out a better time management technique, better balance. You're making doctor's appointments. You're sort of handling your workload. You're also likely going to have to look at things very seriously. On the 28th of the month, we have Mercury cazimi and Saturn cazimi here, suggesting that you need to make some kind of compromises and sacrifices. Perhaps your workload is too heavy, right? Perhaps there's too much going on that you need to adjust to. Perhaps you have been neglecting your health, right? What's interesting is there's a full moon on February 24th in your 12th house, completing a chapter that started in September 2023 with a new moon in your 12th house. And here, the full moon brings attention to your mental health, to your need for rest, to your need for freedom, sort of creative, imaginative space, for your spiritual fulfillment, for your desire to do things that are fun and relaxing. And the full moon opposes Mercury and Saturn in your 6th house. And you're very much looking at your workload and your everyday life, and you're asking what needs to be released, what needs to be, what do I need to let go in order to have better mental and physical health balance. And I cannot describe how familiar this sounds to me, because I even saw a meme today that was saying people who say that they work too much need to be taught time management. So I think I need to realize how to manage my time, and in the process I may need to let something go, but at this point I don't see what I can let go, but it would be really helpful for me if I could. And if you'd like to know what's ahead for you personally, become a subscriber on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com, to know in more detail how your chart gets activated, what's coming for you, and receive personal predictions. Definitely check out my website for that. Now, if you are a Scorpio rising in January, you were potentially making investments, spending money as Venus traveled through Sagittarius, your second house. You could have brainstormed new ideas, maybe some kind of money-making ideas with all the planets in Capricorn. Maybe you've had to sign some contracts, deal with some kind of logistics. Maybe you took some short trips as well, spend more time with siblings, had like a busier schedule. That is all symptoms of the third house transits. As well as Pluto entering Aquarius on the 20th of January could have introduced more focus and more transformations in the sector of home, family, and living situation. In February, there's still, the first half of the month, there's still a lot of focus on your third house as Mercury, Mars, and Venus travel through Capricorn. And like I said, similar sort of vibes. Your schedule might be busier. You're maybe driving to more places. You're maybe checking, like updating your technology, checking your car, talking to more people, finalizing some kind of writing project, or talking to contractors who are working on your house, or like just negotiating, just being busier, and also potentially exploring more ideas, right? There might be some romantic action on the 2nd of the month, 7th and 13th, as Mercury in the third house sextiles Neptune in the 5th, and Venus and Mars also sextile Neptune, and Venus also trines Uranus, connecting your house of everyday life with the house of creativity and pleasure, and your house of relationships. So you could be dating a neighbor, having a good time with a neighbor, partnering up with a neighbor, right? Or you could be maybe starting business relationships and exploring your interests and turning your interest into a lucrative project potentially. Like I said, there is definitely a lot of focus on your fourth house. Pluto went in on the 20th, so did the sun. Pluto has tiptoed into your fourth house between March 23rd and June 11th, 2023. So take a look back, see what was that about, what kind of themes got introduced into your life. Pluto in the fourth can definitely highlight shadows in the familial relationships. It can reveal holes in the foundation of your literal home, or like holes and problems in the foundation of your family, encouraging you to adjust and to make changes and to set up better boundaries, to sort of learn to stand on your own 2 feet, so to speak. Especially important are February 4th, 5th, 13th, 14th, 16th, 17th. Mercury, Mars, and Venus one by one will conjoin Pluto, giving you really major hints on what Pluto in Aquarius for the next 20 years will be about for you. So pay attention. This could be the time when you realize that there are some power struggles, that there are some control issues in the home, in the family. You may realize that there is some secrets that are coming out, that there is some kind of something that needs to be addressed in the family dynamic. Maybe there is a need for a move that's sort of impending. On February 9th, we have a new moon in Aquarius, your fourth house, on a square to Uranus and Taurus in your seventh house, which suggests new beginnings in home, family, living situation in response to changes and surprises, breakdowns and breakthroughs in partnerships. And of course, this could be positive, right? Your spouse gets a unique job offer and you're moving to Bali, or you're just moving in together, right? Because you want to start your life together with someone else. It could also be more challenging, like you find out that your partner has been hiding some kind of debt from you and now your dynamic is changing. So both positive and negative, both sort of like there's just an element of like, what do we do here? This is surprising, this is new, this is somehow shocking. Try to stay flexible, try to stay adaptable. I love Venus conjunct Mars on the 22nd of February. This could be like a passionate night in, deep connection with your partner. Venus rules your house of relationships, Mars rules you. So you're coming together with them, you're feeling supported, you're maybe making amends, connecting, anything like that. Or also just like, feeling happy in a new home if you recently moved is also a possibility here. Later in the month, Pisces starts to get activated. Your 5th house starts to get more active. The Sun enters on February 18th. Mercury enters on February 23rd. And you are maybe going on more dates. You're maybe having more fun. You're maybe having more sex. Maybe you're making babies. Maybe you're focusing on creative projects and sort of taking action, becoming more proactive. On the 28th of the month, we're going to have Mercury Cazimi at the same time as there's also a Saturn Cazimi, which is significant because you're having important conversations, you're having serious conversation, making tough decisions when it comes to creative projects, when it comes to love, when it comes to children. This could be the time you realize that, the time is running out and you need to start having for a child even though you don't feel ready yet, or that you have to give up on some kind of idea that you had, some kind of like magical but not very realistic idea that you had for your business potentially. On the 24th of the month, there's a full moon in Virgo, your 11th house, which completes a cycle of friendships, of group projects, of certain dreams, maybe dreams coming true. Look back at September 2023 when we had a new moon in Virgo, what was starting in your life. But there is a very clear opposition between your house of your public life and your ambitions and your goals and your house of personal life and your like dreams, your relationship, your children, and children could be passion projects, and sort of a need to be realistic about what's possible and what maybe is not possible, right? Like you have to get real, what you can accomplish and what you cannot accomplish, right? Like you cannot be building an empire and also be a stay-at-home mom. You have to let something go. So the full moon in the 11th house is really asking you to examine your dreams, examine your connections, and maybe let some go. And if you'd like to know what's ahead for you in February, become a subscriber on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com, to receive written horoscopes emailed to you at the start of every month. These are very personal, and take a look at what's ahead specifically for you. Now let's look at Sagittarius rising. In January, you were potentially shining and reinventing yourself with Venus in Sagittarius, your 1st house. Your financial matters could have taken a lot of your time and encouraged you to make some investments, set some money aside, talk to financial advisors with planets in Capricorn, your 2nd house. And then Pluto entered Aquarius, your 3rd house, intensifying your speech, intensifying your interest, making you more focused on business, making you more focused on learning, and just sort of like more interested in authentic self-expression. In February, Capricorn is still a place of action until the middle of the month. This is your 2nd house of money values. So you may be talking about money. Maybe, like I said, you're getting financial advice. Maybe you're handling some kind of matters connected to property, especially around 2nd, 7th, and 13th, as Mercury, Mars, and Venus, 1 by 1 sextile Neptune. I think there is like a very sort of rational and serious energy in terms of making your dreams come true when it comes to your living situation, whether that means moving or paying off your mortgage or making some kind of adjustments, doing renovation, anything like that. There's opportunities to get serious, as well as, making like just sort of putting some money aside or asking for a raise or coming up with new ideas. Pluto has entered Aquarius, your 3rd house. Aquarius is busy throughout the entirety of February. 1 by 1, Mercury, then Mars, then Venus enter and conjoin Pluto between the 4th, 5th, 13th, 14th, and 16th, 17th. Pay close attention to the conversation you're having at this time, to your dynamics with your siblings, to your dynamics with your neighbors, to your thoughts, to your interests, to sort of what catches your attention, what catches your mind, what kind of thoughts you're thinking obsessively. Because this conjunctions to Pluto will reveal what the rest of Pluto in Aquarius be about. These are very first sparks, right? And suggestive of what's to come. So this could be the time when you're realizing what in your communication is outdated. You're realizing what needs to change in your relationships with your siblings. You're realizing what kind of is holding you back versus what you need to invest more into. What do you want to be known for? There's like a lot of big questions here. And on February 9th, we get a new moon in your 3rd house and a square to Uranus in the 6th house, suggesting new beginnings in communication, writing, business, scheduling in response to breakthrough surprises and changes related to work, health, and service. So a very literal example is like you get let go of, right? Sorry, I'm like going for the negative one, but like there is, let's say you get let go of and you need to rearrange your life, and now you have a little bit of free time to understand what you want to do, and maybe it's time for you to start a blog about something that you're passionate about. Or there is like a sudden project and your work really requires all of your time, and you need to now rearrange your day to free up space for that. Or you realize that maybe, you know, your work or some kind of health matter or your commitment to something takes up too much of your time, and you're choosing to rethink whether it's worth it or not. Venus conjoins Mars on February 22nd in Aquarius, your 3rd house. This is beautiful for dating someone, dating a neighbor. This is beautiful for going on a date in a neighborhood, for spending time with friends maybe, for taking a class on something, learning something fun. Could be quite romantic and passionate and like a good day to connect, agree, negotiate, anything like that. Pisces becomes more of a focus from February 18th. The sun enters Pisces. This is your 4th house. You're likely to feel more private. You're maybe more interested in spending time with family, maybe more sort of nostalgic and wanting to see family. Like, you know, if you're traveling at this time, you start sort of crave home, your home hugs from your mom and your home food, anything like that. February 28th, we have Mercury cazimi and Saturn cazimi in your 4th house, which is very serious, sort of big decisions about your living situation, about your mortgage, about your family, needing to have some tough conversations, needing to make some sacrifices, compromises, and sort of get real about your long-term plans, about where you want to live, about how you want to interact with your family, what needs to be changed, etc. There's a full moon in Virgo, your professional house, on February 24th, which completes that cycle of professional growth that started in September when we had a new moon in Virgo. So the full moon here brings completion of maybe a work project, maybe changes in your dynamic, maybe letting go of a job or getting a job. But I feel like there is contradiction between the full moon and the 10th and your attention that you're placing on your job versus the Saturn and Mercury and the Sun in the 4th house. So as you are coming up and or you're rethinking your living situation, or you're looking for what makes you comfortable and secure, you're also examining your work life and asking whether your job is aligned with your goals, right? Whether you're making enough money to move where you want, whether you feel too exhausted and don't feel too comfortable, whether your job is in touch with your life goals, or, you know, you're at a place that was supposed to be a temp job, but you've been there for 10 years. So some kind of important realizations are quite possible at this time. And if you'd like to know what's ahead for you, what February has in store, to know the rest of the transits, as well as for me to take a look at your personal transits and describe them to you, become a subscriber on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com, and you will receive monthly horoscopes emailed to you at the start of every month. If you are a beautiful Capricorn rising, in January there was a lot of focus on your mental health with Venus and Sagittarius. Maybe you traveled, maybe you leaned into spiritual pursuits, explored therapy. There would have been a lot of focus on yourself, your health and wellness with planets in Capricorn, as well as later in the month, more focus on finances, especially as Pluto and the Sun ingressed into Aquarius around January 20th. You may have realized how you want more financial stability, maybe realize some shadows around resources, and discovered new passions and new interests. In February, there's still a lot of focus on Capricorn until the middle of the month, and you are maybe reinventing yourself. You have more energy, you're exercising, you are being more productive. I think especially good dates are February 2nd, 7th, and 13th, as Mercury, Mars, and Venus all aspect Neptune in your third house. This is great for like expressing your ideas, taking on new skills, taking exams, taking care of business, right? Literally and figuratively, getting like more inspired, writing something, kind of taking care of your skills. On the 7th, Venus also trines Uranus in the 5th house, so you can experience romantic, sexual breakthroughs. It's a good transit. There could also be even like a possibility of pregnancy on the 7th for some of you. Of course, not for everyone, but Uranus in the 5th could bring like a sudden baby in a blanket. Baby surprise. Pluto is in your 2nd house. It went in on the 20th of January, will stay here until September 1st, and will then leave for a couple of months and then stay for 20 years. So, like I said, Pluto in the 2nd house, thank God, hooray, it's out of your 1st house. I know it hasn't been the easiest for you guys, but it is in your 2nd house now, which is suggesting that you're focusing on your resources. You're focusing on making money work for you versus struggling working for money, right? Like Saturn has been in your 2nd house between 2020 and 2023. You may have dealt with some kind of financial restrictions or struggled a little bit. And now Pluto is here and you're gearing up for like death and rebirth. You're becoming more intuitive. You're becoming more interested in investing and maybe even starting to consider different professional directions. Pluto in the 2nd can very much suggest transformations. Pay attention to February 4th, 5th, 13th, 14th, 16th, 17th. Those are the dates Mercury, Mars, and Venus will enter your 2nd house and conjoin Pluto. Also, take notice of how dark it's getting. These videos are always fun to make, but they take so long, and you can see how the sun is slowly setting based on the light. So pay attention to those dates, because as planets conjoin Pluto, they tell you what the next 20 years will be about. They give you hints. They give you introductions. You can also take a look back at last year between March 23rd and June 11th, when Pluto first ingressed into Aquarius, for tips, for like hints on what would the next 20 years be about. But you can realize, this could be the time when you realize something about your relationship to money. You can realize where you may be hoarding things or holding on to things. Where are you too afraid of spending? Maybe where are you too sort of restrictive and afraid of taking risks, etc. There might be power struggles when it comes to money. There might be some kind of conflicts around this time that make you realize that like you no longer want to depend on your family for finances or anything like that. So like those will be keys and kind of important times for big realizations. There's a new moon in your 2nd house on February 9th. It squares Uranus in the 5th house in Taurus, which suggests new beginnings in money and values, new sort of sources of income, new priorities that come out of surprises, breakdowns, and breakthroughs creatively. Maybe a creative project gets a sponsor and your writing baby finally gets born, right? Maybe there's a little bit more of a disagreement with you and your partner about how to spend money that requires you to come up with a different financial strategy. Like you may decide that you want to have separate bank accounts. Maybe Uranus in the 2nd house suggests a sudden expense, a sudden pregnancy, or a sudden creative sort of undertaking, or some kind of sudden expense connected to your child that then also affects your resources. So be flexible around this time. Do not try to stick to your idea of the way things should go, because they're most likely not going to go that way. I love Venus-Mars conjunction in your 2nd house on February 22nd. Could be very financially rewarding. Could bring some kind of positive recognition. Could also bring gifts from your partner. Even romantically, this is a very sort of beautiful time. On February 18th, the Sun enters Pisces. On the 23rd, Mercury follows, activating your third house. Your schedule is likely to speed up. There might be more phone calls. Mercury here is very creative, but not necessarily focused. So reread your emails. Make sure you're not sending things with mistakes and you're not accidentally sending a text to your ex about your current partner or whatever. Just like, be careful and double check everything. This could be very inspired time with new ideas, new sort of passions and hobbies coming into your life, new business ideas. On the 28th of the month, there's Mercury Cazimi and there's Saturn Cazimi, which is interesting because this could be literally the time you're like taking an exam. There's like serious thinking because your life is busy and you are completing some kind of chapter, educational chapter. There could also be a need to commit to something, a need to say no to something when it comes to your schedule, when it comes to your business, when it comes to your education, your siblings, your writing projects, right? Some kind of like, how can you make things work? What do you need to say no to? And then on the 24th of the month, we have a full moon in Virgo in your 9th house, which is the completion of a chapter started in September 2023 when we had a new moon in Virgo. And this full moon suggests changes around education, travel, writing, legal matters. Maybe you're kind of saying goodbye to some kind of legal matter you've been involved in. Maybe you are finishing a writing project. Maybe you are graduating and completing some kind of chapter of study. There is, of course, that opposition to your third house and a need, I think, to get like really organized and really structured as you attempt to balance your plans for the future with the needs of your immediate environment. And if you'd like to know what the month has in store for you, become a subscriber on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com, to get monthly horoscopes emailed to you describing what's happening, describing how these transits and many others are affecting your chart. Check out my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com, for that and join our fun group. Now, if you are in Aquarius rising, in January, you were maybe more social with Venus in your 11th house. You could have retreated, escaped, traveled, got away, focused on your spirituality, talked to your therapist, sort of addressed your blind spots and got away on some level with Capricorn planets in your 12th house. And Pluto entering Aquarius could have connected you with your personal power, but also maybe encouraged you to address some shadows and some inner rigidity. Could have highlighted some shadows around you, but also encouraged personal empowerment. In February, the focus on your 12th house continues with Venus, Mercury, and Mars in Capricorn until the middle of the month. And still, you're maybe exploring your mental health. You're maybe learning more about astrology, tarot, kind of diving into these like invisible, more complicated sciences in order to understand yourself. You're maybe traveling. You're maybe thinking about getting away, thinking about resting, just overall trying to prioritize rest at this time. I like February 2nd, 7th, 13th. There is a connection between your 12th house and your 2nd house. So this could be suggestive of investing in healing and health. This could be suggestive of paying off debts, getting rewarded for some kind of imaginative work, for creative work. On the 7th, there's also a connection between Venus and Uranus in your 4th house. So opportunities to move, opportunities to find more comfort, explore spiritual topics, and sort of feel more secure in learning new things is quite likely here. Pluto has ingressed in Aquarius on January 20th. We did have a preview of that in 2023 between March 23rd and June 11th. So take a look back. Have you dealt with any power struggles? Have you discovered something challenging in your environment? Have you had any opportunities to connect with your drives, your desires, maybe realize something deep about yourself? So in February, there's a lot of focus on your 1st house as well. The sun is here energizing you, encouraging you to reinvent yourself. Mercury, Mars, Venus all enter and conjoin Pluto. So I would mark February 4th, 5th, 13th, 14th, and 16th, 17th as the times when Mercury, Mars, and Venus conjoin Pluto, giving you insights on what the time of Pluto in Aquarius will be about. Pay attention to the conversations you're having, the people you're meeting, the desires you're exploring, the obsessions and the feelings that you're feeling, right? This could be a very powerful and sort of transformative time of deep conversations, of sort of shadows coming into your life, realizing where you're being too rigid or where you're not being rigid enough, where you're being too giving, where you're not giving enough, like, etc. There's like a lot of different possibilities of what this could be about. Definitely take a look at 2023 to see maybe you can pinpoint what that period from late March until early June brought. And definitely pay close attention to the dates I just mentioned. There's a new moon in your first house on February 9th and a square to Uranus and Taurus in your fourth house. This is suggesting of new beginnings in your health, in your goals, in your well-being, in your style that come as a result of surprises, breakdowns, and breakthroughs in the house of home, family, and living situation. So the most literal one would be you're selling your home and now you have more money to move and start brand new somewhere else. Or you have more money to invest in education or into writing your first novel, right? Maybe you're moving to a vacation spot and now start to define yourself as, now I live here, right? Maybe you find out something about your family, some kind of sudden surprising discovery. You discover that you are a descendant of the Gates. I don't know, you're connected to Bill Gates. So now you start to see yourself differently. Also, like a chance, I think, to separate your dreams from your family and from things that you have inherited is also quite likely here. I love February 22nd. Venus conjoins Mars. You're more charming. There might be opportunities for leadership, opportunities to unite with other people, all very beautiful, very romantic, very sexy as well. On February 18th, the Sun enters Pisces. On the 23rd, Mercury enters Pisces. This is your second house. This could suggest that more of your focus is going towards making money, towards thinking about things that are important to you, maybe figuring out new financial ideas, maybe like thinking about making investments, getting more financially organized. Of course, Saturn is here, and on the 28th, we're going to get Mercury Cazimi at the same time as also Saturn Cazimi, which means Mercury conjoins the Sun, and then Sun conjoins Saturn too. And that is very much like insights that come with Mercury Cazimi, but also a need to be structured, a need to be organized, and a need to lay out long-term plans about paying off that debt, about making that investment, like about sacrificing something, right? Like Saturn a lot of times asks us to let something go. So here it's like, maybe you need to stop, I don't know, buying purses that cost $6,000 if you're trying to pay off a debt or something, like just like needing to be more serious, I think, about your spending. What's interesting is there's also a full moon in Virgo, your 8th house of partners' money and shared money and debts and taxes, inheritance on February 24th. This is the completion of a cycle started in September 2023 when we had a new moon in Virgo. But this also brings attention to definitely debt as you're getting more organized with your personal finances. This can also bring attention to your partner's money and sort of pin your plans against your partner's plans, against your child's plans, right? Or like any sort of other finances, financial engagements you have, and encourage you to be more kind of serious and real and have important conversations, maybe like sort of similar themes, I think, like cut down on something and come to a different agreement with your partner. If you're trying to save and they're going crazy spending, it's probably not good for you, right? So perhaps there is an invitation to sit down, to address the differences and to figure out a better ways of approaching these more complicated financial topics that most of us don't like talking about. That's why 8th house is considered a dark house, because that's a place where things sort of fall by, they disappear. It's like really hard to know how much money your partner is spending or how much money they have, or even like lending someone money. Things get complicated. So 8th house represents sort of like complicated topics. And if you'd like to know what the future holds for you, what February means for you personally, become a subscriber on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com, to receive monthly horoscopes written down and emailed to you at the start of every month to help you maximize the month to come. Last but not least, if you are a beautiful, sensitive, kind Pisces rising, in January you were making some professional moves, maybe experiencing better time at work, or resting a little bit more, maybe with Venus and Sagittarius, your 10th house. You could have been going to more networking events, maybe doing some kind of training, speaking in front of people with Capricorn season and Capricorn planets in your 11th house. And then Pluto and the Sun entered Aquarius on the 20th of January, suggesting more internal focus, more kind of awareness of your blind spots, more interest in spiritual topics, more interest in your mental health, and maybe even some kind of important breakthroughs there. Of course, Pluto takes a while, right? Pluto moves very slowly. We're going to talk about Pluto in a second. Before then, first half of the month, there's still a decent amount of focus on Capricorn, your 11th house. So you're still going out, you're maybe volunteering, you're maybe, working for a nonprofit or connecting with friends, sort of choosing to hang out with friends, especially because Venus is here until the 16th. Even dating a friend is a possibility, I think. Partnering up with a friend is a possibility. So Venus is here and you enjoy doing that. You enjoy socializing. Later in the month, more focus goes towards your private sector, right? Even with Pluto already being here. See, Pluto's back. With Pluto being here, like I said, there's a lot more focus. You are entering this 20-year period of healing self, addressing your self-defeating tendencies, and becoming a healer, becoming a spiritual person, welcoming therapy, welcoming yoga, welcoming any sort of hidden interests that you have. Maybe even, 12th house deals with like being isolated, and sometimes isolation is because you choose to move, you choose to relocate. So for some of you, it might be because you're choosing to like say goodbye to the old and embrace completely different lifestyle, go live in the woods or something. Totally can be Pluto in the 12th house. You're like, Pluto in the 12th is very private. For you, it's likely to be like a lot more private, privately driven. Pay attention to February 4th, 5th, 13th, 14th, 16th, 17th. Those are the dates when Mercury, Mars, and Venus conjoin Pluto. They enter Aquarius and conjoin Pluto one by one. And these are crucial because they will introduce themes that will take the next 20 years to unravel, right? This might be the time when you become aware of like a gambling problem you have, or social media addiction, or a drinking problem. Like there might be, like your secret might be coming to light. Somebody might point it out and you're like, oh, this is what I do is unhealthy. Or you might be thinking like obsessive thoughts and realize that you're still hung up on your ex, encouraging you to give therapy a try. Like obsessive, dark, negative thoughts can be more dominant, sort of also kind of calling you to take action, to become serious, to handle those things. There's a new moon in your 12th house on February 9th. It squares Uranus and Taurus in your 3rd house, which suggests new beginnings in mental health, like starting to see a therapist, a need for more rest, a need for more spirituality in response to some kind of shocking conversation, shocking revelation, right? Uranus in the 3rd house. Breakthroughs, breakdowns in your routines, in your schedule. Like Uranus in the 3rd house can literally be like you like can't get out of bed because you have been pushing yourself so hard, or you have some kind of like anxiety that is overpowering. Now you realize that you need to see a therapist. Or maybe you realize that you no longer want to have a regular job. You want to be a Reiki healer or something like that. It doesn't have to be very negative, right? Venus and Mars spend this, like from the second half of the month, they are in your private sector and your love shifts behind the scenes, behind the closed doors. It still can be steamy and passionate, especially around February 22nd, but it's more private, it's more hidden. Watch out for dating people who are not good for you. This is always the danger of the 12th house placements. Oh, and also I didn't mention February 2nd, 7th, and 13th as really nice dates for socializing, because there is Mercury, Mars, and Venus aspecting Neptune in your first house. You're extra charming, extra imaginative, creative, right? There's also Venus trines Uranus in the third house. So like friendships, get-togethers could be especially enjoyable and even inspirational, I think, at this time. So February 18th, the Sun enters Pisces. On the 23rd, Mercury enters Pisces. The Sun in your first house tends to be the time when you're more energetic. You are coming out of the hiding. You're still going to be in hiding for a little bit, you know, or for a long time. Pluto will be there for 20 years. So the slow transformation of your psyche will continue. But you are starting to feel more energized and you're starting to be ready to like, okay, this is what I want. Let's talk about me. I've done some thinking. Now I can share it with you. I'm ready to write about my experiences. I'm ready to speak. Very sort of, you know, ready to reinvent yourself, to change your look, to speak about yourself, to explore new ideas. On the 28th, there's going to be Mercury cazimi at the same time as we're also getting Saturn cazimi, which suggests serious thinking, suggests a need to get real about your health, about your well-being, about your plans, and about what needs to be done. And what's interesting is that almost immediately gets like pinned against your relationships with a full moon in Virgo on February 24th. This is a completion of a cycle started in September. So if you've just started seeing someone, the relationship can become official. If you have been dating someone and you experience some kind of big disagreement, this could end the relationship. Same for contracts, same for business partnerships. But I feel like there is that tension, you know, Mercury rules the full moon. It's in the first house. You are very kind of self-aware at this time. You are thinking about your future, thinking about yourself, thinking about your goals. And then the relationships get tested by that. The relationships are getting like reality check, right? Like, is your future allowing for a relationship? Do you need to take care of your health? Do you need to take a step back to take care of your mental health, right? Or are your values not in touch with your partners and now sorry, you can no longer hide that because maybe it's the time when things sort of come out. So important questions. If you want to know more, if you'd like to know what the month ahead has in store for you, become a subscriber on my website, anastasiaastrology.com, to get horoscopes specific to you, emailed to you at the start of every month. It's a really great deal. Thank you for being here, you guys. Wrapping up these videos is always a celebration because I start when the sun is out and I end with the sun not being here. So I am really happy that you're here. Say hello in the comments and I hope you have a beautiful, successful, and joyful February.